of Instagram conversations between Raven and I, where we will be speaking into the topic today of the abandonment wound and how to heal that, which I'm sure probably at some level everyone listening to this can connect with. And we have a bunch of questions that are being asked, so please, as the live progresses, feel free to ask any more questions. We will be answering them. And yeah, if there's anyone listening to this who at the end of it feels like it could serve and support someone else, then it will be posted in Instagram as a reel, and you can send that on to others. So Raven, the abandonment wound, it's definitely been a journey in my own life, and I know in yours as well, and you've supported so many people in this experience that people have. So yeah, I would love to open up the conversation with you to share with people some of the practices and understanding of this wound, to really how to navigate that in life.
Okay, let's all just take a moment, take a nice deep breath, everyone who's listening. Like maybe breathe in for 4 counts. Place a hand on your heart and breathe out. Long exhalation. And keep your hand on your heart. Keep your eyes closed for a moment. And the first thing that we're going to do is feel that part of us with tenderness. Feel the part of you that feels abandoned sometimes. And see if you can hold that part of you with compassion, with love. And then just really own that. Just go, okay, I feel abandoned sometimes. It's okay. It's okay to feel abandoned sometimes. Just see if you can breathe with that. Nice, deep belly breaths. So as you're breathing in, let the belly expand. And as you breathe out, relax and release. I want you to release the part of you that's listening to this because you think something's wrong with you and you want to fix yourself. It's okay to feel abandoned at times. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. We're not here to fix you. We're not here to make you wrong for feeling abandoned. We're just here to say, hey, this is alive in a lot of us. And it's fair enough. It's valid. It's fair enough to feel abandoned sometimes. It's valid to feel abandoned sometimes. And feel into times in your life where you felt dropped. And it doesn't have to be just in your childhood, in your adulthood as well, where commitments were broken, where you weren't prioritized. In your childhood, in your adulthood, where you felt neglected in relationships. And just give that part some love. You can open the eyes. So the biggest changing point for me in terms of healing my own abandonment wound was realizing that it's not just a childhood trauma that's being triggered when I feel abandoned. That was huge. You know, I spent 10 years of my life really thinking that the solution to healing my abandonment wound was always to go back and reparent my little child, to self-resource, to meet my own needs, to love myself. And it just wasn't working. Like, of course, I was independent and I was able to be in relationships where I hardly saw my partner. I'm just going to shut this door. But at the end of the day, it was natural for me, and it's natural for us as humans to be interdependent, to need love from others. You know, it's always this interesting thing when women say to me, I want to learn to love myself first before I get into a relationship. And the reason that sentence makes no sense to me is because part of loving ourselves is really feeling our deepest needs and desires and honoring that, and honoring our need for love is part of self-love. And it doesn't have to come from a partner, although we all know that the love from a partner is deeper, more intimate, more cozy, more fun, more pleasurable in some ways, right? Because we're making love, we're sleeping together, you know, we're journeying this life, we're sharing different things as they come up. The more present love becomes, the more things that aren't love come up to be healed. So it's a real journey. And I would say that there's 5 really important things in healing the abandonment wound, right? The first one is understanding the principle that we are naturally interdependent beings, and that it's actually okay to need love. It's okay to want love. There's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. And when I realized that at an embodied level, I'm just like, oh, this huge weight just lifted off my life. And I held so much pride in being an independent woman and being able to meet all my own needs. And, you know, it doesn't mean that I still wouldn't be happy without the love of my partner, but I wouldn't be as happy. And would I be happy without anyone's love if we take it to a broader spectrum of relationships? Probably not. You know, it's like love is so beautiful, and human connection and holding each other and laughing together. It's so incredible. And yes, spending time on our own and loving ourselves without anyone else loving us is also beautiful, but we don't want to chop one from the other. And what I've seen a lot of in my life and in the Tantra world is partnerships where the person who's doing the abandoning is excusing it under the guise of, like, you can't abandon an adult because an adult can self-source, an adult can reparent themselves, they need to learn self-love, all of these things. But actually them emotionally being distant and physically being distant is just not being in the relationship, and not taking responsibility for that in the name of some spiritual freedom, right? And then the person who's being abandoned, rather than having the bravery to say, hey, I need consistency and I need to feel your emotional and physical presence with me consistently, they don't want to feel the abandonment, they don't want to risk losing love. And so then they're on this mission to become independent, right? And actually that act is abandoning themselves. I used to abandon myself a lot, you know, through this false ideal spiritual woman who needs nothing or no one. So that's the first thing I would say, is there's nothing wrong with you for wanting love. Feel the depth of your desire for consistency of physical presence, emotional presence, and know that it's okay to want that, and don't settle for anything less than that, right? The second thing is that, yeah, we need to not abandon our own hearts. So what I just said is part of that, like owning our desires and asking for that and not settling for any less. But it's also just a continual check-in and connection to the body, right? So a lot of people are distant from their own body, and then they're attracting that distance, right? And what would it feel like if you were really connected to your body, if you were breathing into your body and asking yourself really often, like, what do I need? How am I feeling? Right? And not abandoning your own heart. So right now, if you just place your hands on your heart, on your belly, and you tune in for the day, if it's the morning for you or the evening. So what do I need today? And it's not something rational. It's not what you should do. It's connecting to the body and asking the body, what do you need to receive? What do you need to receive? And what if you were tuning into that every morning and throughout the day and trusting that and trusting that? What if you were tuning into that in your relationships and trusting that? So you can open your eyes. The process that naturally unfolds by tuning in with what you need and honoring what you need and asking for what you need is that you're not going to be in an incompatible relationship anymore. That you acknowledge that compatibility requires for you both to meet each other's needs. Not that you're the only source of meeting each other's needs, but that you can meet each other's needs and that that's beautiful. And, people tend to be in the extreme of complete codependence or the extreme of independence rather than in our most natural nature, which is interdependence. Yeah. And actually being able to rely on someone is a beautiful thing. And being able to feel that consistent love is a beautiful thing. And feeling that from yourself. Tuning in, to what you need and then trusting that above everything. And, it's something that I hear a lot from people who are busy is like, well, I don't, what I need is a week off, or what I need is a few hours at the beach, but I've got this deadline. And so if you're really committed to loving yourself, if you're really committed to giving yourself what you need, you're going to trust that and you're going to be willing to make things happen and to trust that that's going to actually serve the rest of your life. And I've had many moments in my life of turning my back on things and choosing something else where it felt like I was letting go of financial security and choosing myself instead and prioritizing my ease and pleasure over money. And more money has come in because actually, in this field of work, for the people who are in this field of work, success is 20% strategy and 70% based on the inner work, the deep inner work that you're doing. The deep inner work you're doing to feel divine in your humanity, to no longer deny your humanity, to no longer deny your human need for love, to no longer deny your need for pleasure and relaxation, to no longer deny anything, and to actually come home to your body, connect to your body's wisdom, and be there. So the third part of this is when the abandonment wound comes up, when you're feeling really alone and scared, don't distract from it. So we've got a lot of ways of distracting from it. It's sometimes it might look like messaging the person who we feel abandoned by and trying to resolve it through that communication without actually holding that part of us that needs holding. Or we're just going into whatever our addiction is and the way that we gap out from feeling the deep, tender feelings that can be hard to feel. So maybe work addiction or pot addiction or alcohol addiction, social media addiction, or, I'm going to scroll so I don't have to feel abandoned. I'm going to message other people so I don't have to feel abandoned. I'm going to have a drink, whatever it is. So the abandonment wound isn't going to heal if you don't reparent yourself. And I want to actually say something here about reparenting, because I feel like a lot of people talk about reparenting and a lot of people talk about childhood abandonment. But I want to say, from my own experience of going through all the layers of abandonment, that yes, there's childhood abandonment, but that can also be an excuse, or especially if you have a partner who is abandoning you and they say, oh, your child, your little girl's being abandoned, your younger part of you is coming up, you need to deal with that. Adult abandonment is also a friggin' thing. I felt completely abandoned in my first relationship when he was cheating on me, right? And yes, maybe the abandonment I experienced as a child perpetuated these relationships that kept giving me the same thing, right? But also they were abandoning me, right? And because I'm so spiritual, instead of feeling that, like back in those days, it was affirmations and personal development that I would go to. So I'm like, I'm safe on my own. I don't need anyone. I'm self-sourced. Him cheating on me is just a play that's happening in the story at a deeper level. This is teaching me to be more independent, whatever it was. And it's just bypass of that part of me that just felt completely dropped when I found out that he was cheating. And when he would go off with his mates, say he'd be back at 5 o'clock, be back at midnight, all of these things happening where I felt like I was some crazy bitch who was over controlling when I'd been out, but actually I felt dropped. And adult abandonment is a fucking thing. It's not always just your childhood abandonment. And when I finally learned to say and to feel genuinely like, no, you're abandoning me and I'm not okay with this. Again, that was a life-changing moment for me. So actually owning that for yourself, that you're feeling abandoned now, and if your partner can own it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's often someone who's in the abandoning role is so afraid of enmeshment that they don't actually want to do the opposite, which is stay close, stay consistent, stay with you, not distance themselves. Yeah. So when you feel that abandonment, rather than judging it, rather than bypassing, rather than distracting, just be there with that and ask yourself, what is this reminding me of? It might be reminding you of your childhood, but it also might be reminding you of a partner that would only see you twice a week and didn't prioritize you at all, or a partner who was away for most of your relationship physically, or your childhood when your parents didn't get home till late at night every night, or no one was there for you when you were being abused, or one of your parents were abusing you, you had no attunement, you were neglected. And it'll be different every time. And sometimes you don't even have to have a specific memory. But what I find is usually if I'm feeling abandoned and I close my eyes and I breathe into that and I say, what does this remind me of? It will show me, and it will be a different flavor depending on the circumstance. So I remember several times in all of my relationships since that first relationship where when my partners would go away with the boys or go out with the boys, I would get into a panic, judge that, pretend like I was okay with it, and then distance myself and, be this independent woman and kind of punish them without even knowing I was doing it, I think, actually, if I look back. But if I could have just held myself in that, which I do now, what does this remind you of? When your first partner went away for a week, had sex with another woman, and then had a video night where he showed the video of him doing that to all of his mates who were actually your friends as well. Like, that is really traumatic, and that's happened to me. So that might come up one time, or maybe another time it's like, what does this remind you of? Oh, this reminds me of when my dad was away and then abuse would happen. What does this one remind you of? Oh, this reminds me of when my partner would go away and say he'd be back at a certain time and then not be back. So then you can separate what's happening in the now to what's in the past and just feel, oh, wow, okay, this is really deep. And then the fourth most important thing to do, it's like that one is really identify I'm feeling abandoned, right? And instead of distracting from it, validate it. This is a fair enough experience. This is what's happening. What's this reminding me of? Feel all of that. And then stage 4 is actually expressing and releasing the stuck energy in your body of fear, of betrayal, of rage, of sadness, of anger. And just let it out. So all listeners, let's just have a 1 minute or so of expressing and releasing pain that's in the body from abandonment. You don't have to think of anything specific, but just closing down the eyes, feeling where this feeling of abandonment might live inside of you. And then bring your hands to where you're feeling that. And just shake the body a little and just feel the fear that's connected to that. Like I'm not lovable. Let out a little bit of sound. Maybe you want to throw a little tantrum, like, stop abandoning me, just come and love me. Just punch the chair you're sitting on or a pillow close by and just throw a tantrum. I want you to love me. I want you to be here. I'm sick of being on my own to fend for myself. I want to be able to rely on someone. Vocalize it even. Yeah, just give a voice to that part of you instead of pushing it down and shaming it. It's okay to feel abandoned. You don't just feel abandoned for no reason. So keep punching, throwing a tantrum. And then let's try covering the mouth and screaming into our hand and just feeling that internal scream. Just like put your hands to your heart and then just open out your hands nice and wide as if you're on a cross. Breathe in and then long exhalation out. Oh, feeling the pain of abandonment. And then bring your hands back to your heart. Breathe into your heart. And just really feel that abandonment inside of you. Say it's okay. It's okay to feel afraid, sad, angry. Just validate what's happening inside. Just give yourself lots of love. Bring your left hand under your right armpit, your right hand under your left armpit. Bring yourself love. And just asking your body how it wants to be touched, asking yourself how and where you want to be touched and loved. Taking in a deep breath, breathing out. And then the fifth step is to ask yourself, what do I need? If you're in a relationship, is there something you need in order to stop feeling abandoned? Do you need your partner to follow through with commitments and not drop you after they've said they're going to do something? Do you need your partner to prioritize you more? And if you don't have a partner, think about past partners, future partners. What do you need from a partnership for it to be compatible with your emotional need for interdependency, for your emotional need for love, for care? So what is it? What is it that you need in relationship? Do you need to be able to feel them every day in their physical presence? Do you need their physical presence with you 80% of the time, 50% of the time? Whatever it is, don't judge it. Just feel what's genuinely there. Just feel what's genuinely there. It's just good to know what you need, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to ask for it or you're going to receive it. Just getting real and coming to know yourself. So opening the eyes. A lot of people who experience the abandonment wound are in such shame around it that they're not being real with it. They're not fully owning that and traversing the territory. And, you know, sometimes if I say, what do you need? It's like, I need my partner here right now, and it's impossible. And, you know, some of the needs that our body has may be impossible. However, we get to know ourselves, we get to know what we need, and then we stop kidding ourselves and we move in that direction, right? Like I had a client last week. She was away from her partner on this big holiday, and she was really missing him and sad. And I'm like, did you ask him to go with you? She's like, no, well, he did a trip on his own, and I thought it's important that I do a trip on my own, and, you know, that I can just love myself and enjoy myself just as much. I'm like, how's that going for you? She's like, I would love him here. There's this and this and this, and he would have really enjoyed that. And I'm like, it's okay to want your partner to be with you on a holiday. You've got nothing to prove. It's like, can you just trust yourself and trust what you're feeling and validate what you're feeling? And, you know, I've got to a point in my life where there's been so much experience of abandonment and so much bypass of that abandonment that it's like, actually, I want to hang out with my partner most of the time. You know, I want to feel the consistency of emotional attunement and connection. And any requests that are centered around those things, I don't have any issues asking for. And it may not always be possible. And I can also do the inner work when it's not possible to be okay with that, because it's important that my partner also is in his own autonomy and, you know, connected to his own truth. And sometimes it might mean splitting up from someone if they can't meet any of your needs. Like 9 out of 10 of what I ask for from Matisse is a yes to, right? And then if there's something that is like, I can't even actually think of something that he said no to that I need. But I'm sure there's been times where, you know, he's going in one direction and I was wanting something else. And I feel like when you are not getting what you need consistently, it's really hard to receive what you do need when it's happening, because you're not in a relaxed, secure state in the relationship, right? But when you are in that secure state and you can feel that a person is really there for you and they're emotionally attuned to you and they're physically present and they're with you, then at the times when they can't meet your needs, it's so much easier to be with the abandonment, because it's not friggin' happening all the time. So if you're someone who you're constantly processing your abandonment, just stop choosing people and situations that create that. And, you know, when I was really working with number 5, what do you need? What do you need? That's when I got very clear on what I wanted in a relationship and stopped settling for men who were going to be away from me all the time, physically, emotionally, or both. So part of the healing, sometimes I get the question, as I said, around, you know, do I have to love myself first? And just remember, sometimes loving yourself is choosing a partner who's not abandoning you, and you can actually heal that wound through the medicine of someone else's love as well as your own love. And I think both are equally important.
Wow. Beautiful, babe. So, yeah, so perfectly put. And I have a few reflections to share. I think the first one is that what I've always noticed with you, having lived with you, travel you for like, almost coming up to a decade, is that you also have a very full life. So you allow yourself to desire and want to be in relationship and connection with your beloved, but you also are on purpose and feed so much energy and passion into that. You have a huge, beautiful group of friends that, you're coming to Bali soon by yourself to come play with me. And, so you've always got a lot going on. And I remember when we were living together in Bali during COVID, that became more obvious to me of how I wasn't doing that. And I kept getting that reflection from people where my entire life revolved around my relationship, and I would relationship cave, and I did very little outside of that. And so a big part of my journey with healing the abandonment wound, especially initially, was to go, okay, I desire love, absolutely, and to feel safe in that. But it's also a lot of pressure that I'm putting on this one human being to do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like the happiest I've probably ever been in my life now, being single, because I have such a beautiful, rich community and rich life that I can feel that when I do enter my next relationship, it's like it's a part of it. And I did experience that in my last relationship, actually. And it became really obvious to me where I wasn't being met in that relationship, because I was naturally more inspired and spending more time with friends or with the project I was working on, because it was filling me up and I wasn't being met there. I go, interesting that I'm actually not wanting to spend as much time with my partner for the first time kind of in my relating. So I think that's one important point. And the other one is for people who aren't in relationship, which I'm currently in, is there's so many ways that I'm noticing that abandonment wound come up, and how deeply it's filtered into so many areas of life, actually. And what I'm now really getting the felt sense and experience of is not tolerating situations that aren't expansive for me. And that thing of not avoiding, that number two of not avoiding, then actually going in and feeling it, is so key in all areas of our life. From being at a restaurant, arriving at a restaurant with friends, and there's like horrible music and the staff are rude, and it's like, I don't want to have dinner here. I'm going to go somewhere else, rather than sitting there for 2.5 hours with music blaring and not being able to hear, is like, one example. And there's friendships. I've started to really do it in every area of my life. And when it's like, for me, I naturally love supporting my friends, but then, there's also a natural reciprocity. And when that's not happening, actually like catching that in the body is where I catch it first. Going like, I feel a little bit pissed off right now, or I feel a bit sad right now. Practicing then actually everything you just guided us through. And what am I needing? Oh, I'm needing to say, hey, I really need your help moving house right now. And I'd love for you to actually show up for that. It's like you're also then getting to kind of test love in a way and see whether that person can love you the way that you want to. And if they can't, naturally, it's like you start to lose interest in that friendship and giving it energy, or in that relationship and giving it energy. And then it gives the other person the chance to go, oh, fuck, sorry, I've had, my head so far up my ass doing whatever it is. I'm here, I'm showing up, I love you, I appreciate you. It's like, oh, great. And then you get to continue to expand together. So yeah, and you know, feeling this abandonment wound when it comes up is the sooner that I catch it. And that was what, like a 2-minute process you led us through, maybe, of releasing, expressing, feeling the heart, feeling into what we need. Is, you know, when we're continuously doing that for ourselves and loving ourselves, I love how you said then we're not abandoning ourselves. And it's such an important part, is in every area of our life. Where are you tolerating? Where are you abandoning yourself because you want to people please, or because you don't want to lose love from a friendship, sometimes even a friggin' stranger, because we don't want to how they may think of us, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and that full, rich life that you're talking about, I love that you brought that in, is this need for love that we have in relationship doesn't have to be constricted to the beloved, right? It's usually the hottest topic, but I'm receiving love from nature, from spirit, from friends, from body workers, from healers, and it's this space of really expanding your capacity to receive love from everyone. And as you say, the more that you're in that, the more connected you are to what you need, the more you're feeling loved, the more you're receiving love, then you naturally, when you're not receiving it in the way that you need, you're naturally going to question it and pull away. But if you're not in that field of energy, if you're judging yourself, if you're trying not to feel abandoned, if you're wanting to be this independent woman, I don't know any women who are in that when they start working with me, right, who after one session, it quickly gets revealed that they're wanting it to look different. And actually, they do really need love from a partner, but also just from everyone. And it's good to inquire, everyone listening, like, how open am I to being loved? And can I actually receive love? Right. And another part of healing the abandonment wound is that when you are with your friends, when you are in beautiful settings and situations, to really breathe that in, to receive that, to feel loved by life. And then I love how you said, you know, choosing to move away from what doesn't feel like love, even just, a noisy place where it's like you're feeling discombobulated, you know, having those boundaries of like, this doesn't feel like love, so I'm a no to that. There's a stage in my life where I needed to get really tight with my boundaries, and it was like, anything that doesn't feel like love and above, I'm a no to, and I had to kind of go extreme. And my partner at the time, who was part of this transition, he raised his voice, and I said, "You can't raise your voice at me." And he said, "What do you mean?" Like, I said, "I don't know how long for, but my nervous system is at a place right now where I can't actually handle any aggression or a man raising his voice at me. So, you know, you need to like go to a room and beat a pillow, but you can't bring that energy to me." I think he did it one more time, and then I just went into the natural impulses of my body and just like curled up and cried and tried to communicate to him non-verbally, which often helps, which anyone who was listening to the last live, I spoke about that if you want to check it out. And then he just cradled me, said he's so sorry, and stopped doing it. And then naturally, as the relationship progressed and I felt safer, I could actually hold that. So it's not about having general needs that are reasonable, or, you know, like, oh, is this need reasonable? Is this need not reasonable? Is this what other people do? It's just like, it's you, it's your body, it's the felt sense that's in your body, and the way that what you need in a relationship shifts and changes depending on where you're at, the last relationship, and how much trauma you experienced in that relationship. So yeah, there's a lot of indicators. And obviously healing the abandonment wound, you need to go deeply into the body and release a lot of the stuck energy that's never been released, or there is just going to be this guardedness around your heart and protection around your heart, not letting anyone in, and abandoning of your own heart. Because actually, if you're not feeling all of that stuck energy holds the belief, holds several different beliefs that center around, I can't trust men, or, I can't trust women, men are going to cheat, it's not safe to receive love, it's not safe to give myself fully. All of these beliefs, as we shift and release stuck energy in the body, we're also shifting and releasing those beliefs, and then we need to replace them with new beliefs. But that's deeper work. And I do have a really deep offering that's going to go into that. So just comment Queen if you're listening, and you'll be the first to hear about the reveal of our next offering that's going to support women hugely to stop abandoning themselves, to claim what they need and desire, and to create a reality where they're actually feeling safe, loved, and cherished from themselves, from a beloved, and from the world and people around them.
Amen. Do you feel ready to jump into some questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Great. So the first one is, this person isn't being fully chosen. That's how their abandonment wound has been showing up, and they're trying to fully choose themselves while also remaining friends with people who didn't fully choose them. Are they shortchanging themselves?
Yes. It's like if someone's not choosing you, if you're constantly feeling abandoned, why would you want to keep engaging? And there's this thing that women do, I can just keep working on that part of myself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you and I have both been guilty of that. And it's part of working on yourself is choosing what feels good, choosing what feels safe, choosing what feels in resonance. And I'm not saying just go for the safe relationship that lacks passion and resonance and alignment, but he's going to stick around. All the component, or she's going to stick around. All the components are necessary. It's like you want to feel safe and free. Right? You want to feel fully chosen from him and fully choose yourself. You want to feel wild and passionate and desired. You want to feel romance. It's like it's okay to want those things and to go for those things. And I'm telling you now, the healing medicine of love, when you're feeling both safety and freedom, romance and passion and true friendship and intimacy, vulnerability and rawness, and no longer pushing away the part of you that feels abandoned. This is called healing the abandonment wound. It's not called healing yourself from ever feeling abandoned again.
Nice distinction.
The wound is there because of the resistance and not holding the abandonment, right? It's like there can be no wound when we're actually here, feeling the abandonment, going through the layers, feeling where we feel dropped, connecting in with what we need and expressing that. That's not an abandonment wound. It's a ever-evolving relationship with yourself and others that's based on actually being there for yourself when you feel abandoned and looking at that, seeing what it's telling you. Like, you need to trust what you feel. Feeling is healing, but feeling and then blowing your top off or blaming someone or, crawling into depression, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, really, really feeling, honoring, validating, identifying, I'm feeling abandoned. And instead of feeling it and getting in a tears and distracting, here we are. I'm going to be here for that part and no longer abandon myself and ask for what I need so I don't keep feeling abandoned.
Yeah, and for that question, as long as we're staying in relationships or friendships or work dynamics, whatever it is, where we're not being chosen, then also, I feel like at an energetic level, we're saying to ourselves, we're saying to others, we're saying to life, this is my level of self-worth and this is what I deserve. And so we're just going to keep getting that again and again. And it's that fear of losing love, which is linked to the abandonment wound, that if we can sit with that and feel that and hold ourselves in that and actually have the courage to go, how do I want to be treated in relationship? How do I want to be treated in work? How do I want to be treated in friendship? And if it's not a resonant with that, then it's a no. And every time that it's like that door closes to that energetic or that relationship dynamic, then there's another door that's opening to the next possibility in the way of being treated and relating in the world. It happens every single time, but we need to know our no to actually be able to open to a more expansive connection with ourselves and with others, which takes courage.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And I think the other part of that is if we're not fully feeling our no, and this, yeah, I've just been reaching new layers of this with our work together and feeling the fire that sits there and processing the deeper layers of that, then it's hard to be really clear on what we are wanting and what our non-negotiables are in relationship as well. And I look back in my life and was like, wow, how did I keep attracting the same pattern again and again? It's because a part of me wasn't fully feeling the impact of that abandonment to actually see it clearly and go, I don't want that. I don't want to choose that for myself. And that process of then writing down my non-negotiables was a natural result of actually feeling all the ways that I wasn't met and wasn't feeling happy in relationship. And now that I'm really clear at a cognitive level as well as a body-based level of what my non-negotiables are, then it's kind of like you smell it a mile away. It's not even a should we date for 6 months and see if this is compatible. It's just like, oh, you're sweet or whatever, but not interested in going further with this because it's just not a natural resonance.
And the important thing is here is that the other person isn't wrong if they can't need. You know, it's like if someone's priority is freedom and work, right? But you want them to be prioritizing you, then you're incompatible and they're not wrong and you're right. It just is the way of it. But relationships, incompatible relationships, they're fighting over the same thing, but actually they're just incompatible. I want you home with me most of the time, you know, tending to the children and living life together. And I don't care about money. I'd rather have more time with you. Could be one person. And then the other person's like, I want to make millions. I want to work from 7 till 7 every day and to just be with the kids for a bit on weekends. Right? It's not going to work. Or someone lives in another country and you're trying to make it work talking on the phone all the time, but the need for physical presence and being held isn't there. And they're fighting over different things. You didn't message me, you didn't do this, or waiting for the next message, waiting for the phone call, and it's ridiculous. It's understandable though, because we want to be loved so much. And if no one's ever told us, hey, you get to be loved in the way you need, then how do we know that? And I remember when I said to you, like, write down all your non-negotiables, write down what you want. And you got so clear and realized that wasn't what was happening in the relationship you were in, and bravely moved on and have used that as a trajectory. And it does take courage and it is scary. You know, it's like every time I've left a relationship where my needs were no longer getting met, especially my last one with Aaron, our relationship was so beautiful, but he was in Bali, I was in Australia. We could have kept going back and forth. Every time I tuned into my body, what I needed was to be with my kids. The only way to be with my kids was to be in Australia, and he couldn't be here in that crazy COVID time. So I had to end the relationship, right? If I was going to really honor what I was needing. And relationships before that were hard to end because there's deep love. So it's not supposed to feel easy to live a life that's dedicated to your self-worth, to your right to receive the love the way that you need to. But it's fucking worth it, right? So many people spend their lives like trying to present themselves a certain way on social media, scrolling social media in a sea of distraction, having the right look, and not actually going, what is it that I am actually really needing in my life, and focusing on that. If you make what you need at a deep level where you're listening to your body, not your mind, the priority for the next 30 days, I guarantee your life will change if you're listening to it.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you bringing that part in around it doesn't mean that that the other person's a bad person as well. And I look back to my first couple of breakups, and pre-Tantra, it was like the way of actually being able to deal with it was to villainize them. Because I didn't want to feel the deeper layers of actually what was going on in here. And I think in relationship we do that. It's easy to villainize the other person, go, it's their fault, they need to change. Then we try and change them and fix them and tell them what they should be doing and all the inner work they should be doing, which is just another strategy of avoiding feeling actually the reality of the situation and what we're needing. Having such love for ourselves that if it's not compatible, then it's no one's fault, but there's a natural separation process that doesn't have to be this dramatic shaming, blaming, especially when children are involved and then community gets involved.
Yeah, and both people have the right to their needs, right? It's like, I need this, like, this is what I need. And when you can get to a point in your life where you don't allow yourself to be shamed for that by your partner or by anyone. And the interesting thing is that when you go inside and you ask what you need, you might be surprised by what it is. And that part of me, some of the things that it's needed, like I need to go and pick flowers and have a bunch of flowers next to my bed, or I need to go and spin around in the ocean, or whatever it is. It comes as a surprise, and it's always delightful. And there is this connection to the inner child that grows when you're connecting with what you need, because often, so there is adult abandonment, but often that child abandonment does come up. This little part of us that was neglected and not attuned to, and we can talk to her and say, hey, what do you need? And I've always poo-pooed people having blankies or teddies, like ever since I can remember. I never had one as a child. My sister did, and I was like, oh God, she needs that. And you remember the whole journey with your teddy, and
poor Edward, teddy.
There was possibly some unhealthy cords that needed to break from that teddy, but still, I had a lot of judgment 10 years ago. And I was feeling this like sadness the other day, feeling into being away from Matisse when I go to Bali. And then I tuned in, I'm like, what do you need? And I wanted like some kind of soft, squidgy to cuddle. And I told him about it, and he found me this gorgeous, soft pink dragon for Mother's Day.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
And it's actually like, I was just cuddling it last night and just feeling this comfort. And it's like, I could be judging that, I could be shaming that, or shame anything. It's like, if it feels good, if it feels like love and you're really receiving that, you're worthy of receiving love in the way that you need it. Full stop. Right?
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that point around shaming others. Like underneath that, we're shaming ourselves. And how much shame did I have about feeling abandoned? There was so much shame until you really supported me to go, fair enough. Fair enough, you're feeling abandoned from that. So, it's easier to shame someone else because we don't want to feel the shame of our abandonment. But Yeah, when we can actually release that and feel what we're needing, then we go buy the little dragon soft toy, and we let
I
ourselves.
want to show it all to you. I have to show you my pink
Oh
dragon.
God. Oh. Yeah, what I have now, I used to have a teddy bear, got rid of that. I have a cute little cushion that is like beautiful, this beautiful like natural silk, and then I use it and like put it against my chest and it feels nice. That's what I sleep with now.
Oh, that's nice.
Show us.
This is Charlotte. How cute is she?
Oh wow. She's like an actual animal.
So if you feel like after this live getting yourself a cuddly toy, you do that. And it is a beautiful thing, like when you're feeling that younger self, right? To just go, what does she want? What does she need? And often my little girl, she just wants to curl up in a ball for a while. Now she's got Charlotte. I'm sure she'll be cuddling in a ball with Charlotte and just feeling and soothing. And then, you keep feeling and you unravel, and there's all of these different layers of your being to discover when you can just be with it instead of the self-protective mechanisms that come up, basically. So it's getting late. It's like 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's a big topic. What other questions do we have?
Right. So the next one is, how can I heal from my dad leaving? Looks like it's dictating my relationships.
Again, like when you're feeling abandoned in your relationship and it's bringing up, if you close your eyes and you move towards yourself with compassion, like what is this reminding me of? Is it reminding me of my dad leaving me? If it is, like hold that part, let it express, let it release. However, just watch the part that keeps blaming it on the abandonment of the father, right? And go, actually, how am I feeling? Am I feeling abandoned now? And I'm telling myself, because I'm too scared to leave this relationship or face the truth of this relationship, and this may not be the case, but sometimes it is. Sometimes a woman will jump on a call with me and she'll be like, oh, I need to deal with my daddy abandonment wound. My partner doesn't feel free, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so what's happening that brings up that abandonment? And after she told me, like they basically were spending hardly any time together. There was an open relationship. She didn't feel safe at all. I'm like, so I get that you're abandoned by your father and you're being abandoned in this relationship. This isn't about your daddy wound. This is about adult abandonment that's happening right now. And it's perpetuating that childhood trauma, right? But it's here. So two answers to that. Go back to that time when it is like triggering that and your partner's not actually abandoning you, and it's like this is deeper within me. Be there for that part, validate it, express and release, tune into what you need. The other thing is just go, okay, am I actually being abandoned in this relationship? And what do I need to no longer feel abandoned? And ask for that. And if they can't give you that, have the courage to leave and enter a relationship that's compatible, where you're feeling a level of consistency.
And that second part, I feel, is the answer to two other questions that I'll just read, which is, how do I'm in a relationship with a domestic abuser for 3 months. He ignores my texts, what now, and breaks up with me. And then how do I move forward from friends that are triggering this wound?
Yeah. And all of those relationships.
Yeah. And then we have a question. What's a daily practice I can do to heal this wound? And also I want to know how to deepen in inner trust.
So deepening inner trust is about trusting your body, right? Trusting yourself, trusting what's showing up. So it's good, this question, because the answers go hand in hand. You can start to have a daily practice of attunement. Just like sit with yourself, tune into your body. Maybe you want to put some nice music on and just feel what's here now. and what's here now? And then just trust your body's impulses to move with that. So maybe there's some expansive feelings, maybe there's some constricted feelings. So just feeling everything, and then asking yourself every day as your daily practice, what do I need today? What do I need in my relationship? And following that. And then inner trust is going to develop because you're trusting the wisdom of your body. You're trusting the wisdom of your heart. You're trusting your felt sense. And honoring what is showing up.
And that we just had a new question saying, how do you know if you're feeling abandoned or if you're just being paranoid, which I feel like you just answered as well with that daily tuning.
It's also, when you're really charged, you're not going to know the difference. So when you're feeling abandoned, don't just let yourself feel that. Doesn't matter if you're being paranoid. Just go, I'm feeling abandoned. So you're feeling it. It's there. So you're not just being paranoid. There's abandonment. The person may not be abandoning you, but you're feeling abandoned. So just feel that abandonment. Identify it. Okay, I'm feeling abandoned. Where is that in my body? Oh, I really feel it in my tummy. Give your tummy a bit of a massage. And then again, like, trust your body's natural impulses. Like, how does that feel? Oh, and you're really scared and you shake, and expressing and releasing. And then afterwards, it's like, what do I need? Right? And if actually there's nothing that you need from anyone else, not that you're not being paranoid, but you know it's got nothing to do with that person. It's like, actually what I needed was just to feel that, or what I need is to just cozy on down and go to sleep, or spend some time with friends, or whatever it is. So, but if after you've processed and you're like, what do I need? It's, I need him to stop going out with his mates and coming home 5 hours later than when he says he's coming home. Or I need to actually move in with him. I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready to share my life with someone. Again, they may not be ready for that, but you are. So it's a self-discovery process.
Yeah. And I feel like, coming back to the first of your 5 points, that there's a question of, how do I let go of the perception of abandonment?
How do I let go of
the perception of abandonment?
Just by feeling what's here. Like, you're feeling abandoned. Okay, breathe into it.
Validating.
And then there's no perception. It's either in your body or it's not.
Yeah, beautiful.
You feel abandoned. Validate that. Okay, I'm feeling abandoned. Let it move through your body. Yeah, connect with what you need.
Amazing. Thanks, darling. I think that that puts us at about an hour. All the questions are answered.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, remember, if you're wanting to go, it's a huge topic, as you can see. And if you're really wanting to go deeper into the embodiment of working with the abandonment wound, and the expansion that's possible when you're really embodying that, then type Queen below for an amazing offering that we have coming up. And yeah, we'll send you the details.
Okay, lots of love, everyone. And of course, we have our podcast that talks about different topics that will support you, blog, free resources you can tap into. So tune into what you need every day, people, and trust that.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Raven.
Bye, darling.